Welcome to robspod.com and the Buddha Bomb, where you will indulge in a spiritual journey into the reality of illusion. Let's get started. Welcome everyone to Rob's Pod, and once again we have another episode. Today's episode is on Plato's cave. I really like this allegory because it really touches on some very interesting aspects as to how we think and how we create our belief systems and how we cling to them, by the way. I'm going to give you a little outline, a little background about the original Plato's cave, created by Plato, and then I'd like to give you the modern version that I created to give you a different perspective, a different way to look at Plato's cave and the allegory here. Allegory means story, by the way, so if you're wondering why they called it the allegory of Plato's cave, it's the story of Plato's cave. Let's get started in this little journey, if you will. We'll do the modern version of Plato's cave, but first, if you're not familiar with Plato's cave, I'd like to give you a little background here. It's the story of prisoners being locked in chains and forced to look at a wall for their entire life in a cave. And try to imagine this. On the wall, there are shadows of objects that are being passed behind them and in front of a fire. And as the objects are passed behind them, the people passing the objects behind them make the sounds that the objects might make. For example, they might pass an image of a monkey, and the image gets projected on the wall from the fire as a shadow. And then as they're going by with the monkey, they would make the sound that a monkey would make. And mind you, this is the only thing that these prisoners have ever known. This is their entire life. This is what they believe to be reality. Now, without going any further into Plato's story, I'd like to give you my modern version of the story. I'll cover it in depth so you'll understand what the story of Plato's cave is really about and all the possibilities we have as far as our learning, our evolution, our beliefs goes, as far as enlightenment goes, and so on and so forth. So I want you to imagine that there's a man chained to a seat in a movie theater. Now, the movie theater obviously represents Plato's cave. And this is where he has been for his entire life. The only reality he knows is the movie that he's watching and whatever other movies are shown to him. Now, this guy is sitting there watching the film, completely absorbed and believing that it's all there is to life. He has no other beliefs to compare this to. He is compassionately bound to the characters and the events on the screen. The images on the screen appear to be reality and what life is. He has the emotions to go through as you're watching a movie. You know, when you watch a movie, you go through emotions. You feel like you're part of it. All the things that happen in a movie are happening to him, and he really feels that this is all there is to life. But then one day, for whatever reason, he happens to look down, and he notices his shackles aren't really locked. His captivity was an illusion this entire time. So he gets himself free. He stands up for the first time and looks around. Even though this act seems so fearful to him, he still stood up and he still looked around. And then it begins to dawn on him that there's another level of reality which he has never been aware of. He's been ignorant of it, in fact. That new level of reality makes him wonder. It makes him wonder about the images on the screen that he's always unquestionably accepted as reality. So he looks around and he keeps looking and he sees a flickering light overhead and he traces it back to the source. Yeah, you're right. The source is the projection booth. So he proceeds to find his way to the projection room to see what's really going on. As he opens the door in the projection room, he sees reels of film and a contraction. And this contraction is what's creating the flickering light and projecting the images on the flat wall. It's a projector, obviously, that he's been watching his entire life. He sees this thing, and now he has to question it. Now, after looking at it, he now believes that there's a possibility that the projector is reality. So now he identifies the projector as the true source of reality, since that's where the light's coming from, the images are coming from, the shadows are coming from. They're coming from the projector, and that's the only light in the whole place. So that must be the reality. This is how he comes to understand that. And now he gets very confused, because upon inspecting the reels of film, he sees that they are all just individual images strung out over a long reel of about thousands of images. He's now beginning to understand what he thought was reality was not really reality at all. He feels cheated. He feels tricked. He feels like he needs to learn more. Our guy has freed himself from delusion and begun the process of awakening to a larger reality. So now he decides that he needs to look around inside the theater and explore this new reality. He needs to understand it better. This man is in the first stages of what I call breaking free and discovering truth. He sees that what he's always thought as reality was just a two-dimensional trick of light and shadows. He sees what he thought was reality was really a delusion. So our man gathers the courage to have a look around the theater. And as you might imagine, it takes him a while to adjust to this new and far vaster, richer reality. It takes him time for his eyes to sense and adapt to the light that he sees in the projection booth, not to mention dealing with the emotional impact of the fact that his life, up until this point, has been a sham. He looks to the door and he sees this silvery flicking light from beneath the door. Once he's over the initial shock and has adjusted to this new reality, he sees that this theater is actually quite large and full of other people, just like himself. He moves toward that silvery flickering light beneath the door, and as he opens the door and leaves the theater, the light from the sun is almost unbearable. It takes him quite a while just for his eyes to adjust to the new world. And then he sees that the world is really a three-dimensional world. And he starts to explore and learns that everything on the screen was false, was trickery. Everything he's witnessed for his entire life was not true. He was fooled. And now he's looking around and he's seeing that the world is a world of three-dimensional objects that you can touch and feel and move around and walk to the sides of. And he sees the sun and he sees that that light is creating shadows of the things that are around him. At some point, he feels the need to go back into the theater and teach everyone what he's learned. When he goes back in the theater, he finds out that no one wants to believe him, because reality for them is what's on the screen. It's all they know. They don't know anything else. They call him a liar, and they tell him that he should not go back outside because it's too dangerous, it's too fearful, and it's not what reality is. And this, my friend, is what happens when you discover that there's more to life than what's in front of you, that there's more to life than what you have been taught. I'd like to leave you with a small analogy that, to me, is a very big eye-opener for most of us. You see, our world is presented to us through our authorities, and these authorities create a belief in our mind, and if we believe it, it becomes our reality. I'd like to use the example of breast cancer, and this is one of many, by the way. In our society, here in America, we are told that the only cure for breast cancer is to cut off the breast, then burn with radiation, and then poison our bodies with chemotherapy. But if we were to step outside of that movie and go view the movie of breast cancer played in, let's say, Italy, for example, we would soon learn that there's another way of curing breast cancer, a way far less invasive and harmful to our bodies. We would learn that there's a doctor in Italy that has perfected a method of injecting a harmless substance into the tumors in the breast and cures his patients with a 95% success rate and without removing the breast. One would say this is a major awakening. But because we accept our authorities as reality, that becomes our reality. And of course, we reject this option. We see it as false, fear-based, because we don't believe in any other possibilities. We call it quackery. We call it wishful thinking. We call it all kinds of things. But if you were to investigate it for yourself, and if you went to Italy and met this doctor and talked to the people who have been cured, all of a sudden, you would be like the man who left the movie theater and understood that everything that he was taught was a sham. It is for this reason that I created Rob's Pod, by the way. I present many possibilities to our belief systems, or should I say, the things we already believe to be reality. And I offer you these possibilities for your own exploration and to come up with your own possibilities and explore them personally. So please check out Rob's Pod and question all your beliefs, because it's very important that we not just accept things and think that it's reality, because there may be a lot more to this life than we really understand at this moment. Always be open to the new possibilities. You see, the people in the movie theater, the people in the cave, in Plato's cave, they believed and they became comfortable with their belief system to a point where change became fearful, where something new became fearful, and they fell into the comfort of being in that place, in that movie theater, and that being their reality. And please don't rock the boat, because we feel very comfortable in this boat. And if you start rocking it, one of us may have to do something different. And that's how we cling to things. That's how we become attached to our beliefs. And understand one thing, if you understand nothing else about this little talk. Beliefs have one thing in common, and one thing always in common, forever and ever. All beliefs are limiting. When you cling to a belief, then you are clinging to something that you have limited. Leave this talk with one thing in mind, and one thing only, if you have nothing else to leave with it from, is that you do not have to believe anything. You can research everything and learn from everything and not be stuck on any one thing like the people in the movie theater. With that being said, I'd like to thank everyone once again for listening to this episode of Rob's Pod. And if you like this podcast, by the way, please share it with your friends. If there's other podcasts that you like, share them also. Please become a member of the site. Share the Rob's Pod Facebook page with your friends as well. And let's get the word out there. Let's get people thinking again. Let's get them back on track of using their brains and exercising the brain. You know, we exercise our bodies. We eat good foods, most of us, and we are conscious of our health. But another part of that, another aspect of our body is our brain. It's our thinking. And unless we actively exercise our thinking processes, our brain could become weak. And that, to me, can be very detrimental. I think the more we exercise our brain, the more we think about things, the more we challenge ourselves, the more we grow and the healthier we are. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Rob's Pod. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to visit robspod.com and give us your thoughts. Ask a question or suggest a topic you want to hear about on our show. If you would like to be a guest on the show, email us at guest@robspod.com.